The worst year for a lot of us for our mental as well as physical health. So joining us this morning is best-selling author, coach, and fitness expert, Lisa Goldenthal.
Hello and welcome. I'm Lisa G, your host. You're at the top of your game, yet the game is changing faster than ever. Strategies that got you here aren't the ones that'll keep you here. The pressure is relentless and the fear of obsolescence looms large. That's why I'm here. Welcome to the new podcast series, Disrupted: How to Be Gritty and Unlock Performance. This is your chance where I sit down with today's top experts in business, mindset, wellness, and success to help you master disruption and thrive.
Thanks for coming, and I'll see you soon.
Okay. He's a preeminent expert on the emotional source code. He guides the top 1% of leaders to discover their personal and professional meaning. Inc. magazine twice named him as one of the top 100 speakers to hire due to the unique nature of his content and delivery. He was named as one of the top 30 global leadership gurus. Inc. magazine named his podcast, Leadership and Loyalty, one of the top podcasts listened to by the C-suite execs of Fortune 500 companies. He focuses on what gives them meaning, drives their actions, and determines results. Please welcome to the podcast, Dov Baron.
Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. It's nice to be here.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be here having this conversation with you. Let's jump right into it. What is the emotional source code?
So the simplest way to think of it is to think of it as the emotional DNA. So we know that the predominance of DNA has been flawed. There was this argument for a long time: is it nature or nurture? The DNA is laid down. What makes it active or inactive, that's a different set of circumstances. It's the same with your emotional source code. You get your emotional source code, it's unavoidable. You're going to get it. It's what you do with it and how it changes what makes it active or inactive that makes the difference. So your emotional source code comes from the formative years of your experience. That's 0 to 7, but actually 0 to about 12. And in that time, as that lays down, that tells you how to see the world and determine whether you are safe in it.
Wow. So
it's the base level.
It's your base level. So if you want to not be so reactive in your environment and have better emotional intelligence so that your reactions are more responses that are not dictated by this emotional source code, what kind of steps can you help our audience with?
Well, first you have to understand that as the emotional source code itself as a mechanism is 5 levels deep. So the base level, as we just talked about, is the emotional DNA. Above that, you have something called the anatomy of meaning. And that's the meaning you determined unconsciously mostly about your initial environment. So you determined this is what this means, and you determined that it means something in order for you to survive. Basic survival mechanism. Above that, you developed an identity based on what you determined was the meaning of your life in order from a survival point of view, based on that original circumstance. From that identity, you have formed beliefs and values, and from the values and beliefs, you've created behaviors. So your reactions are all coming from that base level that is below identity. It's identity and below. So if you want to be better in any shape or form, you can learn as much emotional intelligence as you want, and it's rhetoric. It doesn't mean a damn thing. So you, no doubt, like I, have met people who have got all the qualifications in EQ. They did their emotional intelligence certification, they're an emotional intelligence coach. And then you watch them and you say, oh my God, they're so reactive. They're anything but emotionally intelligent. The distinction is this. Emotional intelligence, as my very good friend Joshua Friedman says, he's the world's leading trainer in it, is The problem with emotional intelligence is it lacks emotion and it lacks intelligence. And what that simply means is that most of the people who've learned it have not developed emotional maturity. Emotional maturity is that you've traveled down those 5 levels of your own emotional source code so that when you are applying it to your EQ, then you become present. Then you can actually serve at a very different level rather than just being reactive or being verbose about what emotional intelligence actually is and not actually having any deep connection to it. We've all met those people. They've got all the right words, but none of the right meaning.
Yeah, I'm particularly interested in the subject myself because I've been around those kinds of leaders in my personal life, in my professional life, that are just bossy bosses and they're not, leading with EQ. So why don't we talk a little bit about what kind of leader we really do want to be? How can we create this culture of belonging?
So a culture of belonging is vastly different than a culture of fitting in. And we all read Good to Great. It was a fabulous book. It's outdated though, like most things, it outdates. Some of the principles are rock solid, and I have no argument whatsoever with them. But this idea of get the right people on the right bus in the right seat is somewhat flawed. And what it is it's we're going to interview you to see if you can fit in our culture. And what that means is you must distort yourself. You must disenfranchise parts of yourself in order to be here. So we all wear blue shirts and we all wear khaki pants and we all say the same jargon. But what that means is, oh, and now we've got diversity. So now we've got people of different colors and different ethnic backgrounds, but they all bloody sound the same. It's a bunch of parrots living in this, using the same thing. So there's no cognitive diversity. There's no way of thinking in a different way. And if we want to be innovative today, we have to build cultures of belonging where people can bring all of themselves to work. So I don't care if you want to show up with a beard and a dress on. It's irrelevant to me. Can you do the job and can you bring your best to it? But if you feel like you have to hide parts of yourself, then you're going to hide the innovation you can bring. You're going to hide the creativity you're going to hide all the kinds of parts of you that may be magnificent for my business. So cultural belonging is giving you the space to be all of who you were. And actually, if you think about it, even Tony Hsieh, who wrote Delivering Happiness and talking about Zappos, built his entire culture on this. It was built on come to work, be you, and be the best of who you are, and we'll facilitate that. And if this is not the place for you, then it's okay, go somewhere else.
Wow. So you got to give people the freedom to be who they are and play to their own strengths rather than all the jargon. I love all the, like, we don't want to create a win-win and come together on this and all the like funny jargon that you just hear everybody saying all the time that it has no meaning anymore.
Well, that's exactly it, Lisa. It's rhetoric, and it doesn't mean anything. And what's more is people are aware that it's rhetoric, right? It's no different than the company that has all the values on the wall, and you look over them and you see that they don't live a damn word of it. I'll give an example from one of my books, from Fiercely Loyal. And in Fiercely Loyal, I talk about this young man who goes, he's interviewed via Zoom several times. They like him. He's excited about going to work there. He wants to go work there, and they bring him in for a personal interview. And so he goes into the reception and he goes up to the reception person, and that person says, oh, the person from HR will be with you soon and the panel will interview you. And he's excited. He's been very excited. And the person in reception says, would you like some water? And he says, that'd be great. And the person at reception gives him a bottle of water and he sits down, and, and that person at reception goes back to work and lets everybody know he's here. Well, she's back doing her work. And then the people come out to take him in for the interview and he's not there. And they say, well, where is he? Oh, he must have gone to the washroom. I don't know. He didn't ask me for a key. That's strange. They wait 10 minutes, 15 minutes. He's gone. Doesn't come back. And they go, what happened? We interviewed him. He seemed like a great fit. He seemed excited to be here. How did he seem when he came to the desk? He was great. He was excited. He was very happy to be here. Why did he disappear? We don't know. Well, because on your website and in the conversations he'd had, you talked about the importance of sustainability. And while you were an environmentally friendly organization, but you gave him a bottle of water in a plastic bottle. He realized you had no integrity and he left. If you're not walking your talk, if you're not integral, then it's just bullshit you have on the wall and nobody cares. And this is why millennials and certainly Gen Z, they're not going to do the work like I did in my day when you went, oh, okay, I'll give it 6 months. They're going, I'll give it 5 minutes. Like we were talking about before we started recording. People are very quick at consuming. And so they make a decision very, very fast. And they say, you know what? These guys have no integrity. I thought they were good, but they're not. People go, well, how come they came to work and they were gone at lunchtime and never came back? You can't trust millennials. They have no loyalty. No. They're seeing through your bullshit. And if you can't hold them by being deeply integral and holding your word, why would they stay with you? They are disrupting your business, and that's a gift. It's telling you where you're out of integrity. Don't look at them and go, they're terrible people. Look at them as the truth tellers. They are the sirens calling to say, hold on a second, you're washing the ships on the rocks. It's time to step up and hold the ground. Do you really care, or do you think you should care because social media or the culture of the day says you care when you actually don't? This is important.
I love your focus on being values driven and walking the walk, because when you want people to be a certain way, people are going to watch what you do, not what you say. And self-leadership to me is walking the walk. That's just wonderful to hear. Do you have any more about values driven before we jump to the next topic?
Yeah, I think I just want to give one more example of it. So
Yes.
think about being values driven as an organization is it immediately filters. And what I mean by that is, I'll give you an example. I am not a Christian, but I completely, absolutely endorse Chick-fil-A not opening on Sundays because they are Christian. It's a value for them. If you don't like it, bugger off, go work somewhere else. It's fine. It's not a problem. And I'll support them because it's integral to them. If you're a Christian baker and you have your own set of values and you don't want to bake cakes for gay people, I will support you till the cows come home. I don't agree with you, but I'll support you because you're values based. I don't have to agree with you to support you in being with your values, because your values tell the people who are going to do business with you, whether they are customers or whether they're employees, here's what really matters to us. And we're going to serve from that value base. That's it. Great. I know. Okay, I'm not a Christian. This is not going to work for me. Or I'm not faith-based. It's not going to work for me. Or I'm not this or that, whatever it might be. I don't believe in supporting gay people or whatever it is. If on the other end you do, then step up and do that. If you don't, walk away. It's great. Just getting as clear as you possibly can, because then you're sending values messages about who you are to your customers and your employees, and it can be seen as integral as opposed to some nonsense that you think you should be saying.
I love their point about not having to agree with people when they're values based, because that's their values and it's not your values, but you got to respect other people. I feel like in this today's political environment, there's just so much polarity because people don't respect other people's right to believe differently.
Well, we're back to the subject we started with, which is emotional maturity. You
Right.
can't do that if you don't have emotional maturity. So, by the way, I don't live in the United States. I live in Canada, but I advise on American politics. And I'm not afraid to say I'm not a fan of the Orange Man. We all know what I'm talking about.
Right.
I'm not a fan of his. But I have friends, close friends, who are true Trumpers. And people go, how can you be friends with him? Because there's more to him than who he votes for.
Agreed.
How can you be friends with her? Because there's more to her than who she votes for. We have this in common. Right? So it's like understanding I can respect your values and you don't have to become my enemy because your values don't match mine. And what my job is to look at where we have common ground rather than looking for a common enemy. And the polarized world is looking for common enemies for which we can become tribal. And when we do that, then we don't learn. Listen, you never got smarter by hanging out with people who agreed with you. The worst bloody advice anybody ever gave you was spend time with like-minded people. Do that and you'll be an idiot. You're never going to get any smarter. Spend time with people you disagree with that you
Yeah.
can learn from. People who are going to challenge you to think about things in a different way. You will only learn about what really matters to Trump people by talking to Trump people. You're not going to learn that from MSNBC. So this is really, that's emotional maturity, is I don't have to agree with you, but I can learn from you.
Right. I mean, I just find that that's the hatred that we're seeing over here in the US right now, is this us against them instead of trying to seek a common ground. And for
But
me,
it's not just the US, Lisa, it's global. It's being fed at every possible level, and it's caused the rise of authoritarian leaders. I have American friends who are living in places like Turkey and Hungary. These are people, one of them is an ex-US military person living in an authoritarian country. And I said, how can you live there? Like, I really want to understand, as somebody who went and fought for America, blah, blah, blah. And he said, it's stable here. So he's traded freedom for stability. Right? And that's very interesting to me. There's a lot to be learned about that. So why are people moving towards these extreme polarity? Because they don't feel there's any stability. So they go over there, wherever there is. And if you want to look at someone like Donald Trump and say, well, who voted for him? I did a political piece on this in 2016 and said why he would win. And my wife was like, please stop saying that. I said, I can't. It's just what's going to happen. And they said, oh, you know, all the racists voted for him. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. Maybe they did in 2020, but not in 2016. The truth of the matter is the majority of people who voted for Donald Trump are the same people who voted for Obama. And people go, how can that be? Very simple. They wanted something different than corporate politics. And they thought they were getting it with Obama because he was articulate and intelligent and a man of color. Fantastic. He failed them, those people who felt failed by, and they went, well, we need a non-political person, and they voted for Donald Trump. Now, some of them have changed their mind about that significantly, and some of them are storming the Capitol. Okay. But the truth of the matter is, these are the disenfranchised from the traditional political model. And that's what's happening in Hungary, and that's what's happening in Turkey, and that's what's happening in India, and that's what's happening in these countries that are, there's a rise of authoritarianism, and authoritarians will always use the same bag of tricks. And the bag of tricks is very simple. Us versus them. You and I had a little conversation just briefly before we turned on the camera. And that was this. You could say, well, you know, are you pro-Israel or anti-Israel? You're pro-Palestine or anti-Palestine? Here's the deal. You can be Jewish and you can be anti-Netanyahu.
right.
And you can be Israeli living in Israel and be anti-Netanyahu. You can be anti-Hamas and pro-Palestinian. There's complexities and nuances that are far different than these absolutes that we tend to go to. So we go, okay, well, we just got to wipe these people off the planet. Then what are we? You're genocidal lunatics on either side. It doesn't matter what side it is, whether you're a red hat or a blue hat. It's nonsense. What do we need to do is find the common ground. And how do we do that? These are my values. Those are yours. Let me hear yours, and let's find out what we have in common. So when I bring into a company, I always say to them, listen, here's what you don't know. You've got Trumpers and Bideners inside of your company. How are they able to work together? They go, I don't know. We have a no politics policy. And I go, well, that's silly, because they're just hiding that away. Instead, let's bring them together. The most staunch Trumper and the most staunch liberal, let's bring them together. And let's find out what they got in common that they find here at this work environment. And it's suddenly like, I don't care that you're a red hat. What you really care about is family. I really care about family. Let's fight together for that with this company. We're moving family values forward. And we're coming at it from different ways, but that's what really matters to us. This is what we've got to get to. We've got to understand that we have so much more in common than we have apart. But they, whoever they are, will tell us we should other. And every war that's ever taken place is fueled by othering, making it's us versus them. No, it's not. We're being manipulated when we do that. And that doesn't matter whether it's in the workforce or in the political arena.
Well, thank you for this wonderful discussion. I hope you guys are really listening to Dov Baron here, and I would love to see us come together instead of more apart and find the common ground and love people no matter what you believe, because everybody has the right to believe what they believe. Let's just get back into the topic of employee loyalty. I think
Yes.
to end the podcast, we're having this huge problem with this quiet quitting and disengaged employees. So how can we really drive home the importance of employee loyalty and treating employees well?
Drive it home to who?
To whoever's listening right now.
Are they employees or are they employers?
Employers, I want to talk to the leaders in the world on how they can level up.
Very simple. If you have a problem with loyalty, you don't have any.
Wow.
It's very simple. If you have a problem with loyalty inside of your organization, your people know you're not loyal to them. It's that simple. So you're not loyal to them and the reason you're not loyal to them is because you've not done the work to be a truly purpose-driven organization. Oh, you read Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why? Congratulations. You don't know what your purpose is. But we do. We read the book. We went through it. We even brought in a consultant. No. Until you do the deep emotional work, the emotional source code of your organization. As I said, I do this for very high-level individuals, but I've done it for nations. I did one on the United States. I did one on England. I did one on Vladimir Putin. I did one on Donald Trump. When you understand what the emotional source code of your organization is, and then you elicit the purpose that comes out of that, not manufacture it, then your people go, oh, this is what we're about. And what's more, oh, you're the boss, Lisa? Well, look, you're walking it. This is fantastic. And look, the guy who leads me, he's walking it. And look, the person at my side of me is walking it. We're all walking this purpose because the purpose is bigger than my political values. It's bigger than the difference in our colors of skin or our gender or whatever it is that we would like to associate ourselves with. If you want loyalty, you have got to center it. You got to plant a flagpole in purpose. And purpose is not manufactured, it is elicited. And then you build everything around that. This is, again, why I like Chick-fil-A. They're very clear on who they are, what their purpose is, and what their values are. So very clearly people are extremely loyal to Chick-fil-A. They don't leave. It's a shitty fast food restaurant. Why aren't people leaving? Because they understand this is the purpose and these are the values. And because I believe in the purpose and the values, I want to stick around. And what's more is when I leave there, I'm going to look for another company that is purpose-driven. This is what we have to understand. If you have a company where your people are lacking loyalty, it's because you lack loyalty, because you're loyal to profit, KPIs, and a board, as opposed to being loyal to the purpose of the organization and the values that support that and the culture that supports the values, beliefs, and purpose of the organization. You want to change loyalty? That's how you do it. Build a culture of belonging based on those things, and you will never have a problem with loyalty.
Isn't it also in how they're treating people?
You treat people completely. So this is the thing. If you say, well, we treat our people well and they're still leaving, then it's your purpose.
Okay.
And if you're on line with your purpose, you're treating people in line with the values of that purpose. So it's impossible to treat people poorly because it's very clear this is what we do. And you go, well, I don't like that. Good, then you should go work somewhere else. No problem. Let's help you. Let's coach you in where it would be best for you to work. So when we talk about how we treat people, if you've not nailed down your purpose and your values and your culture, then of course you're not treating people well. Because everybody's being treated, based on fitting in. Do they fit in? Do they not fit in? It's not as in, here's who we are, here's what we stand for. And now do you want to be part of this? Like, this is a wonderful place to work, and we don't care how you dress or what you do, but we care that you love this, that you're invested in this. And as a result, you want to serve all those who are invested in this. And so here's what the interesting thing is. I've forgotten the name of the company right now. 56,000 employees globally. It'll come to me in a minute. Unilever. Thank you. Unilever. Unilever did this work with 56,000. So you go, we can do it with, we're too small or we're too big. No, you're not. 56,000 people. And they had the same engagement rate as everybody else, which was crappy.
Right.
Crappy engagement across the board.
Right.
And then we're trying to solve that problem. Everybody's engagement went up by at least 20%. And 27% of people, after they got connected to the purpose of the organization and their own purpose, 27% said they would go the extra mile for the company. These are people who previously were doing quiet quitting, who were barely showing up, were suddenly saying, I'll do extra time, no problem.
That's fantastic results. Those results speak for themselves. Any final tips you want to leave leaders out there in our audience on how they can be unstoppable in this disruptive, uncertain world we're living in?
Again, only to reiterate, do the purpose work. And I mean, really do the purpose work. And to do the purpose work for your organization means you have to be courageous in doing the purpose work for yourself. When I go into a company to do that work, I start always with the executive team and oftentimes with the very top people, whether that's the CEO or the board. And then we bring the executives together to do it, and we create each one person finds it, and then we start building that collective purpose. And then everybody is then washing that down at every possible level. Is that work? It is. Is it an investment of your time and your resources? It is. Is the payoff worth it? Heck yes. And there's only one way to do that. And that is stay curious, my friends. Stay curious. It's my religion, is curiosity. Because here's the thing. Anything you want to do in life, you will do better if you approach it with curiosity. You want to be a better husband or a better wife? Get curious about your partner. People say, my marriage is, we're not quite as on fire with each other anymore. Are you curious? Well, I know everything about him. No, you don't. You think you do. I understand that. Try asking somebody who's been married 10 years, what's the color of your wife's eyes? And they go, brown? No, they're hazel. Well, isn't that brown? No, it's hazel. And what's your wife's favorite flower? I don't know. I just send her a bunch of flowers. Well, my secretary or my assistant sends flowers. Yeah, you don't. Do you know she doesn't like carnations? No. What's your wife's favorite food? What's your partner's favorite movie? Are you curious? Go out on first dates with your partner. Go out on first dates with your CFO. Go out on a first date with your COO. Re-interview them. Get curious and you'll get better. And then do the same stuff with yourself. What do you automatically assume everybody knows about you, but they don't? Because then you get from that curiosity, you start to develop healthy vulnerability. And that healthy vulnerability is what bonds human beings. We are bonded through vulnerability. You want people to be loyal to you? Have reciprocal vulnerability. Don't put it on them. Be willing to share first. And I'm not talking about emotionally vomiting on people. I'm talking about having discernment around your vulnerability. Listen, Lisa, you're here in front of me and you've done really well with your sales and I see you're struggling, and I want you to know that I really struggled when I was in sales too. And here's what it was for me. It was this. It might be something very different for you, but here's what I had to learn. I start with the vulnerability. Is it that for you or is it something else? Well, the truth of the matter is, Dov, my kids are going through this and going through that. Oh, really? How can we help? How can we help with what? You give a shit? Yes. That's how you do it. Everything you need to know about business is this. It's all relationship, whether it's with your employees or whether it's with your customers. If you're no good at doing relationships, you can't be a great leader. Get curious and become a great leader by becoming masterful at relationships.
Wonderful. Well, I'm so glad that we ended on such a great note on vulnerability, because I know so many people are afraid to be vulnerable, but it actually is power, not lack of power, to just let people see that you're a real human being.
Couldn't agree more. Thank
Or
you, Lisa.
thank you for being a great guest. Baron, where can people find you?
You can find me at dovbaron.com. Obviously, my name, DOVBARON.com. You can certainly find me on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. I post a newsletter on there called Actualize Leadership. You can have that. I am also on YouTube. There's about 1,000 videos on YouTube. I write for Medium. You can find me on there, Curious Leader. And I have 2 podcasts. Well, one major podcast, The Dov Baron Show. Of course, you can find that anywhere you get podcasts. And, hit the subscribe button. I promise you, it's always intriguing because it's polymathic. We go into neuroscience, quantum physics, leadership, emotional intelligence, and the whole array of things, even to the political realm. It's fascinating stuff. You can find me anywhere. And here's one more thing you can do. I know this is insane. You can write to DOV@DOVBARON.com. You can actually personally write to me. I know, it's Meshuggah, isn't it? I will answer you. I will actually respond to you. You can write to me. And I want you to write to me, and I want you to do this. I want you to write to me, and I want you to tell me what you got out of listening to this. Because information is worth the hole in the donut. Transformation comes from the application. Tell me what you've gotten out of this and what you're going to do with it. And do the same to Lisa. Write to her on LinkedIn and say, hey, Lisa, thank you so much for bringing us on, because she's doing the effort to bring you guests. Write to her and tell her what you got out of the show and what you're learning from it and how it helped you and what you're going to do with it. It matters. Don't hoard. Be generous. Be abundant. Share the knowledge. Help everybody else as well. We're all here to serve each other.
Powerful stuff. Thank you.
Thank you.